Hey everyone, welcome to what I think could be a pretty exciting conversation for me anyway, because I happen to be a triathlete, an endurance geek, if you will. Love to get the heartbeat going for an extended period of time, and I'm constantly looking for ways to improve performance. And I'm here with two sports scientists that can help me improve my game, which will hopefully improve your game. So I just want to introduce you to Kristen Holmes from Whoop, Vishal Patel from Nuun Hydration, and then again, I'm Kevin, and I'm the self-proclaimed chief eternal optimist over at Nuun Hydration, and like I said, a triathlete and endurance geek. So if I could, maybe, Kristen, why don't you just tell us, what are you doing over at Whoop?
Yeah, so I'm the Vice President of Performance. So I work primarily with elite athletes, tactical athletes, to help them optimize the use of the platform. So a lot of that involves interpreting and actioning the Whoop data to help drive performance, and a lot of education around what kind of behaviors are going to lead to optimal performance.
All right.
A lot of that information comes from the data that we receive, and we get this data and we're like, okay, if we modify these behaviors, whether it's a training adaptation, or maybe it's sleep behavior, maybe it's recovery behavior, we're able to kind of pinpoint it in the data and then drive that information toward the user.
Do you find, and I know we're going to get into detail on this one, so
Yeah.
you work with a broad spectrum of athletes, right? From, we call it sometimes the front of the pack to the back of the pack and everyone in between.
Yeah, for the most part, a lot of the folks that I work with are really at the front of the pack, to be honest. We're talking about, we have almost 82 operators in the platform, Special Operation Forces, Navy SEAL. We're really at the tip of the spear. We've got, Florida State Soccer just won a national championship, Florida State Softball, I've got Texas Tech. We've got a lot of some of the very best student athletes at the NCAA level on the platform, as well as Olympians.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing.
So it's really, and then folks like yourself, we've got, Tour de France cyclists, we've got triathletes, and
My gosh, yeah.
So we're really we've been able to capture, I think, the interest of a lot of really high-end athletes who are interested in optimizing their potential within their sport.
And so for those that are listening that may not be at the front of the pack, Is it relevant, the learning that we're talking
It is.
about?
I mean, I think, to me, principally, or just at a foundational level, I think anyone, whether you're trying to be the best mom you can be and just looking to crush your bar class, or an elite athlete, you still need to understand your body, right? I think that's just important, right? We want to live as long as we can. We want to be healthy. We want to be happy, and we have to understand what is going to help me achieve that,
right?
And it's proper hydration, it's proper nutrition, it's getting the requisite sleep. And being able to dig into that, I think from a quantified sense, I think is ideal. And of course, that's my space, so that's what I believe in. But yeah, I think if at both ends of the spectrum, I think understanding your body is absolutely central.
Amazing. By the way, our mission is really simple at Nuun. We want to inspire people to move more.
Love it.
So what's your sport of choice?
My sport of choice?
Yeah.
I played at the University of Iowa. I played basketball and field hockey, and I played with the U.S. national team for 7 years. So I competed at an Olympic level. So I play tennis. I love running. Love to run almost every day, but I have to dial it back because and then explosive, strength and raw strength. Yeah. So I try to do it all.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining. This is great.
Thanks for having me.
Vishal, what is your role at Nuun?
Yeah, so my role at Nuun is I am the Director of Product Development. So my job entails leading our R&D and compliance team. So personally, I feel like I have the best job at Nuun, even though I know a lot of people here that work for Nuun will say that, because I get to take my passion and my background for science and innovation and put that into practice in helping develop products. Like Kevin mentioned, our mission at Nuun is to get people to move more. And we truly believe we're doing that through our products and just using the latest and greatest in science and innovation and taking my passion for running, and it's kind of all married together between what I think is the best job.
Nice.
here at Nuun. So.
I don't know if you have the best job. I think I do,
Yeah,
but sure. But that's here nor there. So you're wearing a Cubs shirt. So does this mean you're a baseball player?
I'm not a baseball player. I'm a baseball fan, a baseball super fan. Actually, a Cubs super fan. I'm a runner by trade. I actually ran at Iowa State University, so I'm
No
a Cyclone.
way.
I didn't know Kristen was a Hawkeye. We're gonna, I'm not sure. I might have to switch spots with you, Kevin, or something. But yeah, I'm a runner, big Chicago sports enthusiast, and Kristen was just telling me that they work with a lot of players from the Cubs. So all of this is amazing. And really exciting. Yeah.
All right. Well, why don't we start from the beginning? Let's jump in. I have a few questions for you guys to kind of start off with. So as an endurance athlete, maybe I'll direct this one first to Vishal,
Sure.
and then over to Kristen. But so 8 to 10 hours of movement a week, could be more depending on if I'm going on peak time or really going after a personal record, if you will, that I'm training for. And I'm curious about the importance when it comes to performance. Like, what's the role that you think sleep has?
Yeah, so I personally, I feel like sleep is probably the most important aspect of performance. And I say that because for an endurance athlete like yourself, Kevin, that you're working out for multiple hours a week, even multiple hours per day.
Sure.
And what a lot of times endurance athletes and just athletes in general don't understand is that while you're working out, you're actually putting a lot of stress on your body and your muscles. And during that time, your muscles aren't necessarily getting stronger. You're stressing them more, and then in endurance exercise in particular, you get a lot of little micro tears in your muscle, which helps. That's why you get tired. So that develops into fatigue. So your body actually does and will recover efficiently and the right way when you're sleeping, when you're totally down at a restful state, where you're calm. So then, different hormones aren't being released that can kind of interfere with that recovery aspect. So personally, I feel like when you're sleeping, it's the only time where your mind's truly, truly shut off, and then your body can actually focus in on repairing itself, because that's the goal of recovery too, is to just rebuild and repair your muscles that you're stressing during exercise. Now, I'm not saying exercise is bad for your muscles. It's gonna help, with delay the fatigue and make you get stronger over time. But that recovery aspect is really important to make sure that you're getting all of those gains that you would get from the workout.
Yeah, that's helpful. Any builds on that?
It's the greatest legal performance enhancer in sports.
Oh my gosh, I love that quote. We'll have to remember this one.
Dr. Matthew Walker.
Yes.
He's, on this
great.
West Coast. Yeah, he's a psychiatrist, I believe, or doctor of psychology from Cal Berkeley, I think. But yeah, he's one of the preeminent sleep scientists in the world, and he's done just loads of research. So I stole that from him. But I think it's sleep is 100% undervalued in the sports world, and that's a large part what I do. Is I'm a sleep evangelist. I help people understand that if they can get, because there's sleep is a skill, right, that you have to develop. And you need to understand what your sleep architecture looks like at night in order to understand what type of behaviors you need to assume during the day in order to optimize your sleep at night. To your point, it's the only time we release human growth hormone is during sleep. I think up to 25%, we're releasing during sleep. So that's a tremendous amount. So if you think of sleep as a way to, basically you can't capitalize on the day's workout without the proper amount of sleep. And your body will drive toward will tell you what you need to do. Yeah. But what happens is most folks just literally don't spend enough time in bed in order to really capture enough restorative sleep to capitalize on the day's work. Yeah. Right? That makes sense. Because you're not, with what happens tomorrow, if I don't get the requisite sleep, basically what I did today is for naught. Yeah. Right. So as a result, we don't make the gains that we should be making. Yeah. And then we get injured, we get burned out. Things like that. So sleep is absolutely central from the physical aspect as well as obviously the mental restoration piece.
So let's build on that. So what are the steps? Kind of walk me through over that 8 hours.
Yeah.
Maybe for me it's 12 hours, but
Right.
but 8 hours of sleep. What's that look like overnight? What's happening?
Yeah, so you have different stages of sleep that you're kind of going in and out of throughout the night. And I will say, in order to kind of spend time in a deeper stages of sleep, what happens before bed is really important. I think we'll probably talk about that at some point.
Sure.
But just in terms of sleep stages, sleep is continuous, it's not discrete, but we kind of bucket into these kind of 4 categories. So you have time that you're spending awake, which is completely normal. It's not like, oh, hey, I'm awake, you can't really perceive it, but you're effectively physiologically not technically asleep. So there's periods of wake time, there's periods of light sleep, there's a period of REM, sleep rapid eye movement, and slow wave sleep. And this is kind of moving on a 90-minute roughly continuum. And you really want to try to spend roughly 40% of your total sleep time in these deeper stages of sleep.
40%.
40%.
Okay.
So that will give you enough of the physical and mental restoration to kind of wake up the next day fully regenerated. Because during that time frame, there's all sorts of things happening. There's cellular turnover. There's genes are turning on, they're turning off. Like there's all sorts of things happening that don't happen during the day. The only time it can happen is during biological sleep.
Got it.
So.
When you go to bed, do you ever feel like this when I think about going into the stages? Do you ever feel like you worked out so hard that it's actually hard to really fall asleep? You would think you'd be completely exhausted. I felt this, so I'm asking for a friend, maybe me. I'm going,
you're not alone.
I can't, I actually, I'm so tired and so sore, it's hard to sleep well.
I totally get what I've experienced that as well, where you would think that, as soon as you get into bed, it's like lights out and your body will just immediately shut down. And unfortunately, that's not the case a lot of times. And Kristen can probably go into more detail on why, what's happening to your body to prevent you from that. But a lot of the time, the one point that Kristen mentioned that I think is important for when you are working out at a higher intensity is that trying to get that 40% or at least within that deep zone, because that's the period where your body will actually be able to repair itself, and then you can start building those muscle fibers back from when you are working out for a really long time. Personally, I feel like when I have a really hard workout and I go into bed, it's almost that I psyched myself up for that event of kind of finally recovering and finally trying to allow my body to calm down, where then I can't fall asleep. But there's things you can do to help your body naturally get into that state.
What do you do? Because you're so methodical on how you think about things.
Right,
you're very intentional.
Sure.
What do you do?
So an interesting part about sleep in terms of kind of natural hormone releases is melatonin. There's a lot of sleep supplements and things out there that take, that add melatonin in there. Now, melatonin is a sleep inducing hormone. Your body will actually naturally produce and release this hormone when you're at a very calm, restful state. So a lot of people, when they're trying to get to a more, after a hard workout, you want to try to accelerate that, or try to accelerate that period where you are kind of shutting down, your mind and your body in preparation for that melatonin release that comes when you're in bed. And personally, I take a product called Nuun Rest, which is a concentration of a high amount and highly absorbable magnesium. And the magnesium is really a very, very important mineral in terms of recovery that also helps you get ready for bed. It kind of promotes that the sleep inducedness, and it does that by magnesium is responsible for so many biological reactions in your body to help you with energy, recovery, muscle recovery, bone recovery, just making sure hormones are being utilized properly and a lot of your brain is functioning properly as well. When you take in higher amounts of magnesium, it allows your body to reduce its cortisol levels. And cortisol is a stress hormone that just gets built up throughout the day, whether it's exercise-based or if it's life-based. That's why, trying to combat your cortisol by hydration, one, and taking in, magnesium, which is a lot of studies has shown to kind of reduce that. So the magnesium will kind of help you reduce stress, and then while before you go into bed, so your body can, naturally produce more melatonin to help your body kind of, calm down and fall asleep. And then there's tart cherry as well, which the great thing about tart cherry is that it has natural melatonin in there, and it allows your body to naturally produce it. Right. Sorry. So it allows your body to naturally kind of produce release the hormone to allow your body to sleep more. So it's kind of like a synergistic effect. You want your body to get down to a restful state first, so then you can naturally it can kind of flip that natural switch where your brain will be like, okay, now I can start focusing in on sleep. Obviously, it's harder. It's harder to do in practice. But one thing that Kristen mentioned early on is that you have to practice sleep, and it's about consistency and then kind of tracking where that consistency goes.
That's a great lead in, because I was thinking about, as I'm using my Whoop here and learning, I'm new to it, and it talks about like when you talk about steps, and then you talked about the best performance enhancing non-drug, I guess if you will, like it says performance sleep, like this,
sleep performance.
Or sleep performance. I'm like, wait, what? It's supposed to be restful, so like how is this a performance?
Right. Well, it's just a way we talk about the score. So it's basically what you got versus what you need.
Yeah.
So Whoop is going to tell you how much time you need to spend in bed based on how much cardiovascular load you put on your body during the day. Any naps that you might have taken during the day that will cut down your sleep needs.
Does it know if I'm napping? Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it does.
Right.
If you've gotten to enough of a restful state where physiologically it qualifies as sleep. You can enter it in as a nap manually if it didn't pick it up. That just means your heart rate wasn't low enough. You moved too much, and your heart rate variability was
fascinating.
Too high or whatever. So so we're looking at certain parameters to understand if you actually trigger physiological sleep.
So speaking of heart rate, how's that an indicator of recovery performance?
How's heart rate an indication of recovery
Is
performance?
that phrased right?
So I mean, heart rate is really interesting because it's a better like longitudinal marker as opposed to kind of something you want to hyper optimize like day in, day out, right? It's like so I think a better marker of understanding kind of how your capacity for a single day is heart rate variability is probably a better indicator of what you can do that day on the day. So you're looking at percent standard deviation movement off of your baseline to kind of understand what yesterday did to me today. So it's a really core metric as it relates to recovery. I think you combine that with resting heart rate and you combine it with sleep performance now, and that's kind of what we do at Whoop that makes up our recovery score. You combine those three markers and now we really can understand your capacity for the day. So I think we just got done an 18-month study with Corey Stringer Institute, and we're published. And what the paper basically said was that, or found, was that no single metric, resting heart rate variability, sleep performance, is independently more valuable than they are together. So our algorithm that puts those three pieces together was basically validated. So it's a number that basically when you wake up in the morning, you understand, okay, how much strain can I actually put on my body safely, and in a way that I can make gains.
Right.
If you wake up and we bucket it, you know, green, yellow, red.
Yeah.
And if you wake up kind of in this red zone,
Yeah.
you know, you're basically, your heart isn't responsive to both inputs of the autonomic nervous system. You have the sympathetic branch and the parasympathetic branch, and they're
Right.
both competing to send signals to the heart.
Yeah.
When your heart variability is suppressed, your heart isn't going to be as responsive to both inputs. Okay, so you're just not going to be able to adapt to your environment the same way as if you had a really high heart rate variability. High heart rate variability, good. Low means you need to prioritize recovery.
You're leading me to so many, like both of you, like to so many more questions that I didn't have written down. So here's one for you to think about on what you just said is.
Yeah.
So if I'm tired, I've got like a lot of training workload built in.
Yeah.
It's that peak time frame.
Chronic load accumulation.
Yeah, exactly. I'm beat up. I'm tired, right?
Yeah.
But yet I'm told that work out through that. Just keep going through it because that just trains your body to work through pain and blah, blah, blah. And so I'm like, okay, keep going. But meanwhile, I'm just like, and that performance goes down on my workouts. I cannot hold it.
There's a sweet spot. There's no question about it, right? Like you know, and I think that's where having data, you know, and I've worked with thousands of athletes that's inside data all day long. That's what I do. So I think there's functional adaptation and there's non-functional, right? If you are so far off of your baseline,
Yeah.
you're in a non-functional moment. Like you know, more is not better, right? More is just
Right.
more, right? You
Right.
don't want to be in a situation where you shouldn't be pushing through pain. That shouldn't be the norm, right? There's going to be periods of time during your training block where you are looking to, you know, you're going to have a suppressed HRV, you're going to have an increase in resting heart rate. That's good, right? Your system is accepting the stress that you're putting on it, but it gets to a point where it can be non-functional.
Yep.
And that's where kind of this superficial bucketing of the red, green, yellow is really helpful. When you have a huge deviation off your baseline,
Right.
it's just your body is not going to be able to capitalize
Yeah.
on the effort that you're putting on that day. It's just rest. So I think one thing that we have seen with endurance type athletes is that they don't rest enough.
Yeah.
There's way too much going on in terms of workload,
Yeah.
chronic workload.
Yeah.
And what ends up happening is folks get injured, you know, they just can't sustain that level, right? Something ends up breaking down.
Yeah.
So I think there is, you know, in my viewpoint, and I think what the research kind of supports this is that, you know, looking at the data, understanding kind of how you're tracking, what's normal for you, having a robust baseline, all that's really central if you want to optimize performance.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense for sure. Vishal, is there anything like that you would recommend to do? I was thinking from a nutrition perspective to help get to a quicker recovery.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the one thing about recovery nutrition is that, you know, it's all about the long term. You know, it's not about, hey, you know, I just finished a run and my calf is sore, so I'm going to drink this so I'm not sore anymore. It's about taking that slower approach where, you know, yes, protein and specifically like branched chain amino acids are really, really important for that muscle recovery aspect of it. But as Kristen has mentioned throughout the talk today, it's that you do need that rest. Like you really, really do need that rest side of it, because that's when the load is going to be off your body completely. And then there are things you can do to kind of help promote that. You know, it's taking in you know, like as you're preparing for bed and things like that, you know, it's taking in it's not consuming caffeine or stuff like that, you know, obviously close to bed. It's not, you know, exercising for an extremely high intensity, you know, 30-40 minutes before bed, but it's really to try to take more calm inducing nutrients and things like that, like magnesium, like a chamomile tea or something like that. And then the tart cherry as well, that is a component of rest, will help as well. And it's not necessarily just because of the aspect that it's going to help your body produce melatonin. It's the anthocyanins in there, that red pigment that you see in tart cherry, that's going to really help with muscle soreness. And there's a lot of, and the antioxidants as well. Like there's a lot of good things in tart cherry that'll help you kind of prepare for bed and to help you kind of recover. In that, it's just helping fighting all of the high stress, like free radical production, things like that.
So oxidative stress is like really, really tough for the body and will divert resources, toward recovery. So, one way to think about it, just principally like at a high level, is you want to reduce glycemic variability, right? Like you don't want to have these huge spikes in your blood sugar, right? Because that is going to disrupt, you're going away from homeostasis. Now you're in a position where, oh gosh, all these resources need to go to deal with all the crap I just put in my system. So now that's not enabling me to have, all the things that need to be happening to kind of help me recover don't happen. Right, so another way to think about it is, having foods that are not going to create these spikes in blood sugar, nutrient rich.
At any point in the day, or you're talking about before I go to bed?
Well, certainly before you go to bed, because if you've exercised really, really hard, like to your point earlier, you're gonna mute melatonin. Okay, that's been studied, right? We know that. So you have to think extra hard about what you're actually putting in your body. So you can prepare to get yourself to a point where you can actually sleep. I think we'd be remiss not to say the blue light as well.
Isn't this?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It will, it will prevent you from staying asleep, getting into the deeper stages, your sleep quality, sleep efficiency, your sleep onset. The blue light, you should block it 3 hours before bed.
3 hours.
Oh gosh.
3 hours.
I know, it's crazy.
I go to bed at 7 p.m.
But I know. But when you talk about the circadian rhythm, it's light as a measure, right? Light, food timing, are both really in sleep-wake timing. Three of the most important factors. When it comes to aligning your circadian rhythm.
So, I'm curious to get your definition of what is poor quality versus high quality sleep. Maybe if we could define that, and then from there, I have a question for both of you because they're kind of correlated here. We talked about when not to have the blue light. You said 3 hours before. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. I got to change my habits pretty quickly here.
Those glasses are really helpful.
What about then as well? So poor quality, high quality. This one of the other things that leads into it. So I've heard about. Obviously, breakfast is break the fast. And so I hear you shouldn't have anything food-wise to consume for 12 hours. I've even heard some data, statistical data would suggest it's even closer to 14 is optimal. Again, this is interesting, but again, it's about this high quality, poor quality sleep, and then you guys, your perspective on the 12-hour break the fast or more.
Yeah. So in terms of, do you want to?
No, go ahead. Yeah.
So sleep quality is, as I mentioned, it's 40% of your total sleep time.
Yeah.
You want to be in these deeper stages of sleep. So
that's
a combination.
High quality.
That would be high quality. Yeah. So it's really the time that you're spending in bed. Are you able to achieve that 40%? So some folks have to spend more time in bed in order to get to that 40. Some people need to spend less time in bed. There are things that you can do that will enable you to spend less time in bed, but allow you to have that more quality, more efficient sleep.
Yeah.
The low-hanging fruit is sleep-wake timing. If you can be as consistent as humanly possible in terms of when you go to bed and when you wake up, that is huge. Because your body, it likes predictability, right? When we're talking about releasing hormones and things like that, it wants to, like if my body knows that I'm going to be going to bed, I want to fall asleep at 9:30, I start prepping for bed at 8:30, like my body already knows that, and I do that over and over and over again. Like everything is just firing on all cylinders, right? My gut, my brain, my hormones, like all of that is just on fire, right? Because of just this one single hack, sleep-wake timing. Therefore, I don't have to spend as much time in bed because I'm giving my body what it wants, and I've got this like perfect sleep-wake alignment.
So sorry, I'm going to.
So that's the best way to get quality sleep is to stabilize your sleep-wake time.
But 8 hours is kind of
arbitrary.
So that's arbitrary.
It's arbitrary. So it's really it's relative to how much load you're putting on your body during the day. Okay, if you crushed if you did a 3-hour run and then you swam a mile, that you put a lot of load on your body. You're probably gonna have to spend more time in bed in order to optimally regenerate. Okay, also factor in, it is harder to sleep when you're sore and you can't quite get as comfortable. You just might need to spend a bit more time in bed in order to get that optimal sleep.
Okay. What do you think, Vishal?
Yeah, I definitely the last point you mentioned on and I think this kind of hits home on your earlier question about kind of being comfortable when you like get into bed and then because oftentimes sorry, I'm kind of taking this in another direction, but often when I'm like going this happened to me this weekend after I had a harder run on Saturday, and I did take a nap during the day, which I had to because it was just like I had time and I could just feel I felt that if I wasn't gonna actually try to start the recovery earlier in the day, it's going to be harder for me to fall asleep because I'm just not going to be able to get comfortable. And I actually that strategy does work for like longer longer workouts and stuff.
As long as it's before 3 o'clock.
Yeah, it was before 3 o'clock.
And the nap's like 30 or 90 minutes.
And I just set a timer on my phone for 45 minutes, and I shut everything off. And even I'm not even sure if I'm actually sleeping or napping in that time, but
you're resting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like when I start doing things like that, or I try to not think about like being sore going into bed, it really is like the power of the brain works, controls everything, and it actually does work in that scenario for me.
So do you wake up in the morning energized, as it's one of the choices when I'm looking at my Whoop data? It's like, are you energized? Are you slightly sore? Do you actually wake up going, boom, let's do this day, let's go?
Honestly, in the mornings, my dog jumps onto bed and starts going crazy, so I am like ready to go. But no, honestly, there are some mornings where I feel tired, where I feel even more sore than I did the night before. And I think that that's natural and normal to have your body kind of feel a little bit differently in certain stages of sleep and during your workouts and things like that. But I feel like the times where I do like I'm trying to be more consistent about my bed and awake time, and
it's a game changer.
It really I feel like it really has been. Now I've been really, an hour before, like I try to get into bed at 10:30, and around 9:30 I'll start preparing, and start shutting everything down. I read before I go to bed. It helps me. It just helps take my mind off of the day. And then exactly, it's about
But reading is okay because your mind is working? Like
it depends on what you're reading. If you're reading something like some crime novel and it's really stressful, like it's probably not the best thing right before bed, right? But yeah, as long as it's like relaxing and pleasurable and not stressful, it's great.
Do you wake up energized?
Yep.
I really do. Yeah.
I do.
I mean, not every day.
I'm just really jealous. I want to wake up energized.
You can. It's possible.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, there's just a few things that you need to stabilize in your life and try to be consistent with. It's not a million things, just a few things.
Okay, what do I need to do?
Okay, well, I think, so one of the things that influences your time spent in deeper stages is how you manage stress throughout the day.
Okay.
So most individuals accumulate negative stress throughout the day.
Yeah.
And that is it might not affect your sleep onset, because most people have a lot of sleep debts, so they fall asleep really quickly, but then they have crappy sleep during the night.
Yeah.
And a lot of this is due to this negative stress accumulation. Yeah. So this phenomenon is real. And the way to mitigate that is to take these micro rest cycles throughout the day.
Oh.
So literally you can just breathe for a minute every 90 minutes. And if you breathe over 45 seconds to a minute, you release acetylcholine, which tells your heart rate to slow down. It's got this really powerful effect. And it doesn't have to be a long time, but if you do that, I try to do it before and after a meal, and then I do it after every 90-minute block of work. So for the most part, during the day, I feel pretty much like I can stay present and focus on the task at hand. And that's really what breathing does.
Is that the equivalent of meditating in this case?
Yeah, it's passive mindfulness, which some meditation can actually activate the sympathetic branch of the nervous system and actually not be as restorative as just passive mindfulness. But the whole idea or the whole principle behind it is that you want to, when you're thinking about the future, you're thinking about the past, and you're not in the present, that's when the anxiety kind of creeps in.
Yeah, that makes
so
sense. Okay.
the extent to which you can kind of, you've got this work block where you're focused, you're on task. All right, and now I've got this like mindful moment, that I breathe for a minute, 2 minutes, and you want your inhale to be greater than your exhale. But there's lots of resources online that you can kind of figure out what's best for you. Yeah, so breathe in, and then your exhale is a little bit less than your inhale.
Got it.
Hypoxia, even training, sometimes with your mouth closed, sleep with your mouth closed. You want a lot of your kind of that journey to be through your nose.
Okay.
Just something to think about.
Why is that different? Like, why through your nose versus your mouth?
So it's just in terms of it's just your diaphragm and kind of how it's responding to the breath, essentially.
Okay.
The Oxygen Advantage, if anyone wants to dig into it, is an awesome book, and I'll tell you all about breathing and oxygen and how important it is.
Interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
but I would say mitigating negative stress accumulation is going to help with your sleep efficiency, quality, and also your onset. So your sleep onset, your ability to fall asleep at night.
Yep.
Hot shower, vasodilation, all the blood gets pumped to the extremities, because you can't actually fall asleep until your core temperature decreases.
Right.
So that process of a hot shower decreases your core temperature. So you have to bring it down by 2 degrees, I think, in order to release melatonin.
That feels backwards to me. I'm
I
taking
know,
a hot shower, but I'm reducing my core
I
temperature?
know. Yes, you reduce your core temperature with a hot shower because all the blood gets pumped to the outer extremities.
Oh, yes.
It's called
of course.
vasodilation.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
that is an awesome hack for sleep. So the bottom line is finding kind of a routine for you that's going to work. And when you're working out really, really hard, to your point earlier, that routine is going to probably look a little bit different. If you've got a light workout, that routine is going to be slightly different. But again, your body loves predictability.
Yeah.
So the more predictable you can be, the better.
So I really don't wake up energized in the morning very often. I'm not
You're probably
sluggish.
under-recovered.
Maybe.
Generally.
Maybe.
But in most endurance athletes I come across are generally under-recovered.
But if I take a nap, unexpected nap, here I am on a Saturday afternoon, and
Yeah.
I fall asleep, I feel like $1,000,000 when I wake up. I'm like, my chest feels like it's expanded.
Yeah.
Is that normal? Seriously, I feel like there's so much oxygen going on in here.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. I don't know if that's what's happening.
Naps can be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really important that you do it before 3 o'clock. You don't want to nap after 3.
Because that'll
that
ruin
will
the
have a
nighttime.
negative, that will have a
Okay.
negative effect on probably your onset and also your quality of your sleep. We've seen this in the data, big time.
Yeah.
So it will impair your sleep up to 15%. So if you'll spend 50% less time with deeper stages of sleep if you take a nap after 3. This is NBA and MLB athletes. This is a constant struggle.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those guys, especially the Latin guys, come over and they're sleeping at 4 o'clock.
Right.
Yeah. But anyway, before 3, and generally you want to do either a 30-minute block or a 90-minute block, but try to avoid anything in between.
Oh. Okay.
And the caffeine nap is sensational. Espresso, set your timer, wake up 30 minutes, you will really feel like $1 million.
All right, Michelle, you're the coffee master, so you got that down.
I can drink.
We need a Nuun version of the nap, the Nuun nap.
Nuun nap.
Yeah. Tablet.
That would be interesting.
I just feel like I have so many questions. I frequently say.
You talk about the intermittent fasting too. That's a whole other. That was the second part of that question. But,
Oh yeah, talk to me about. Oh yeah, that's the 12 hours. So do you agree that that's optimal? What do you guys think?
Personally, I mean, this is just a personal opinion. I don't encourage the intermittent fasting aspect of it, just because I understand that for certain situations it can work and there's some premise behind it. For me, just as a general kind of a scientist or a nutritionist, I just feel like more balanced intake of food and eating the right foods at the right times during the day is just going to provide more overall health that will end up helping with recovery and sleep, etc.
Yeah.
So I don't really prescribe, if you would, to kind of some of those strategies, although I do understand the premise behind it. Yeah, but for me, it's more about just taking nutrition in terms of eating the right foods, trying to eat more plant-based and not a lot of refined sugar. So try to control your blood sugar and to have it more consistent throughout the day, because that's going to also give you energy and then also allow your body to rest and calm down when it needs to.
Fair, makes sense.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Kristen, do
There
you-
is, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of on the fringe on that. I basically don't eat till noon. I stop eating at 7, so.
So you
I-
do it then.
I do.
Yeah.
At least, 3-4 times a week. I just feel better. I feel like it controls my weight. It takes decision making off the table, like it frees up my
That's true.
brain.
Yes.
But that said, I do have, I'll have like a MCT oil in the morning. So I'm not eating. So I am having fat, but I don't have, my first meal is pretty much lunch for the most
How
part.
would you consume that then, Sarah? Is that?
I put it in a coffee.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah, bulletproof.
Yeah.
Fashion.
Oh yeah, local
Yeah.
Seattle-based brand.
Yeah, that's
actually.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and I think there is a lot of science that suggests it's a positive thing for your health, longevity. Having these periods of time where you're not asking your body to digest food. It's, I think, kind of getting to that anabolic state versus catabolic, I think is a powerful forcing function within the system, and something that I think we can actually manipulate, through fasting.
Is there a role that hydration plays into whether or not you're going to get the right recovery, right amount of sleep?
Well,
Yes.
the fundamental basis of hydration, which I try to keep reminding people like what hydration does, and it just from the simple aspect of it, it helps bring oxygen to helps circulate oxygen
Right.
to your working muscles, especially that's why it's so important for athletes. That's why when you're when you go to the doctor or whatever and they're doing your physical and you're like, oh yeah, I'm tired all the time, they're gonna be like, drink more water. And it's like
This is
like
the
yeah,
lowest hanging fruit.
I know it is. It's like,
crazy.
and they're like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll just drink water and it'll do it. Water won't hydrate you as effectively as like Nuun or something with electrolytes will, because consuming fluids is one thing, but you want to actually absorb the fluids, and the sodium and the electrolytes will kind of help that. So I again, I'm not saying that hydration is a cure for everything, but like in the fundamental, if you look at it, yeah, it is really close. If you look at it, what the functions of it, in that it helps bring oxygen to you, it gives plants like an ability to live, and us too, obviously. So I do think that there's so many aspects of hydration that help with recovery, that help with sleep. You can add different nutrients to hydration, like increase the magnesium levels to kind of, which is a key electrolyte and a mineral that will help with just overall hydration, but will also help with like kind of that sleep inducing behaviors and things like that.
We see it with one of the metrics that we track, heart rate variability. If you go to bed underhydrated, your heart rate variability will be in the tank. It's one of the biggest influencers on heart rate variability.
So do you want to have more variance?
More variability, yeah. So it's the interval of time, heart rate variability. It's a function of the heart, but it manifests in the autonomous nervous system, and it's just literally like the measurement of time in between kind of heartbeats. Then you want more variability. That's the healthier your heart, the more variability.
Is there a heart rate that's like a little dangerously too low when you're sleeping? Meaning, mine said it was like 37.
No, I mean, just you're really fit, and you've
I don't
got.
know about that, but
No, I mean your cardiovascular health is really good.
it's interesting. Like, so
Did
it's
your blood pressure must be super low.
I think I actually just went to the doctor last week, and they said normal. I can't remember what
Oh,
it
it
was.
was normal,
Yeah,
okay.
it was just normal. Yeah, it wasn't low. It was just nothing bad, nothing exciting.
No, I mean there probably is. I mean your heart's no longer beating. That's not a good thing.
Yeah.
But,
I know. I'm just like, I think my wife's like, "Are you alive?"
What did the doctor say? Did you tell him? I mean, he must have saw that. He must have.
He didn't say anything. I
He
don't
didn't say
know. Well, usually,
knows you're
usually the
an
reaction,
athlete.
usually the reaction I get is, are you, that, like,
You a
if it,
runner?
that's
Yeah.
the question
I
every
know.
time.
They say it to me too.
Are you a runner?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah,
Like, yeah,
you know.
I run.
But I didn't realize my resting heart rate at night was that low until
Yeah.
I used Whoop.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the heck is going on? I go, am I almost like not alive?
No. It's not. We see that in our elite endurance athletes.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So welcome to the club.
Yes!
Made it.
Well, I don't know if I made it, but I'll pretend.
Yeah.
I'll fake it. I'll
Yeah.
fake it for sure. Yeah, anything other tips you guys want to make sure we leave everyone with on when it comes to sleep and recovery, rejuvenation, and energy?
Yeah, I mean, I would again not to say this over and over again, but why I think recovery is hands down the most important part of exercise performance, and especially sleep, is that's when your body can actually repair and rebuild itself.
Yeah.
And it's like you're stressing your body so much during exercise, which is great. But like you really do need to give your body the time to repair, because we're not just running on Monday. We're running Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So it's like, tomorrow's workout or tomorrow's run is going to be dictated by everything I do, today, and how I prepare my body. So I was really excited for this talk, and obviously for us to provide more options for people to help them recover and rest more, so they can move more. Which we're doing with Nuun Rest and other aspects as well. So
Awesome.
The one thing that I would add is just to really pay attention when your like natural pressure for sleep is. We have a different chronotype. Some folks are going to naturally feel sleepy around 11, other people 7. You mentioned that you go to bed at 7.
Maybe true.
So I start to feel sleepy around 8:30.
Yeah.
I'm going to want to be in bed around 9, and then hopefully falling asleep by 9:30, like the latest.
Sure.
That's my natural pressure for sleep. So pay attention to your natural pressure for sleep. When you push past your natural pressure for biological sleep, you end up releasing a whole host of hormones that are going to basically stress the sympathetic branch of your nervous system. So you're going to release cortisol, epinephrine, adrenaline, all of those things you need for race time, not for bedtime. So it's really important to kind of understand that piece. Because people are like, oh, I have this surge of energy. I'm like, well, of course you do, because your body is like stressed, thinking that it needs to perform when it really wants to go to sleep.
It wants to sleep.
So I think that's something for folks to just, I think, be aware of, and then obviously nail the sleep-wake timing. I'm telling you, in the data, it is mind-boggling when people start being consistent with their sleep. They end up spending, I think it's 32 more minutes in REM, and I think 17 more minutes in slow wave sleep, which is clinically very, very significant.
Yeah.
So it's in the operators that I work with, it's even more than that. Some of those, it's somewhere between 6 and 13% across both groups, both stages of sleep. So it's really powerful.
Do you have nap rooms at Whoop?
We don't, and we should. I know. We need nap pods.
Oh.
Yeah, I just saw Ariana Huffington, Thrive Global. She's all about the work life. That balance, and they have just purchased a nap pod in their office. So.
Oh, she did?
Yeah.
Or they did, I guess.
Did, yeah. But yeah, we need one.
Yeah. Don't give the Nuun team any ideas. They'll just
want
to nap all day.
Might not ever get up.
Just want to say thanks a ton. This has been so fun. I seriously could go on for another half an hour with questions for you too, so thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Cheers.
It's good to meet you.
Cheers. Yeah.